Hey, Warrior Saints. Welcome to today's edition of our Crucifixional live stream. Glad to have you back with us. Kind of want to follow up the conversation that Father Chris was having yesterday about debt. Because after we filmed it, after we went live and we're talking about it, I was on Facebook sharing it and doing all of those things, and of course got sucked in to a glorious Facebook discussion about the fairness or unfairness of this whole entire process and student loans in general and debt in general and all of this stuff. And let's be real. I mean, the fact remains that these loans that the government has subsidized are corrupt. They're horrible and they're somewhat crippling for people. I get all that. What I don't get, though, is the discussion that is completely centered around fair. It's not fair that this group is getting $10,000 in student loan forgiveness and I'm not. It's not fair that this group isn't. It's not fair that this group is going to have to pay for it because we didn't take loans maybe and now are getting stuck with all of this and it's going to get passed down to the taxpayers and all of those things. All of the arguments have merit of some form or another. But the reality is it all boils down to fair. Well, let's be real. Life is not always fair. Life takes us in twists and turns, and we don't know what we're always going to do with it. But what we do know is that we have a choice when we are confronted with those twists and turns. We have the choice to wallow in sadness and self-pity and whining that things aren't fair, or we can see what's going on and we can just continue moving on with our lives. There's this beautiful quote by Scottish philosopher George MacDonald, who said, "The Son of Man suffered unto death, not so that man would not suffer, but so that our sufferings could be like his." And it's not this idea that like suddenly when I'm worried about the fact that so-and-so is getting this much money towards their student loan and I'm getting no money because I didn't have a student loan, then my suffering is like Christ on the cross. It's not what he's saying. What he's saying is Christ willingly went to the cross in a moment that was unfair. And he didn't wallow in self-pity. Rather, we see that victory in the garden where he says, "Father, that this cup would pass over me, pass from me. Nevertheless, not what I will, but what thou wilt will. What thy will be done." What you are asking, that it's the leaving behind of this self-centered idea of my will and everything has to be how I want it and everything has to be good the way that I see it going and where and blah, blah, blah. Get over yourselves. Life isn't fair. True story. I started seminary in 2005, in end of August, beginning of September. I got there and I came home for a friend's wedding in November. And my mother told us, gathered us all together as she was in the hospital and let us know that she had cancer. That was not fair. The fact that she died right at the end of my seminary education, also not fair. The fact that I was living away and my brother was living out of town while she was battling cancer, not fair. But guess what? It's what happened. And we had a choice on how we were going to react to that. We all have those choices. How are we going to react when life is not fair? And we all have to figure out what that answer is going to look like. But I'll tell you one thing that I found out today. I went to openbible.info and I typed in fair to find out what are the passages in Scripture that talk about fair. And you know how many there were that actually used the word fair? This many. Nothing in there is talking about that. But what it is talking about, Scripture is teaching us how we can overcome the fact that things are not always going to be fair or what we consider to be fair. And we can move forward with our lives and figure out how we are going to approach life, understanding that life isn't necessarily fair, but that we are called as warrior saints to overcome that and to respond to that in a way that is crucifixional. And that's what we're going to be exploring in a future Way of the Warrior Saint episode, which I urge you to get on and get for yourself or for someone else by visiting us at warriorsaints.org. There you can subscribe to our flagship program, The Way of the Warrior Saint. There you can see what we have to offer, and you can see a much longer explication or exploration of what it means to deal with life when life isn't fair. So visit us, warriorsaints.org. Get on the way of the warrior saint, and you will get in your email in a few days a brand new episode dealing with this very topic. We will be back here with you tomorrow, and until then, keep walking on the way of the warrior saint.